Welcome to Hack Your Health with Dr. Nat, a transformative live stream TV show that brings wellness within everyone's reach. Each episode, featuring expert guests, delves into crucial topics like hormonal health, effective detoxification, and stress management through nervous system optimization. Gain practical insights into nutrition, supplementation, efficient workouts, and biohacking tools to enhance mental and physical health. So now, please welcome the host of Hack Your Health, Dr. Nat.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hack Your Health with Dr. Nat. I am your host, Dr. Nathalie Beauchamp. The show is about bringing you amazing guests and topics to discuss that might be new to you, or a topic that you want to dig into a little bit deeper. So today, the topic of our show, I called it the Power Trio. We're going to talk about the low-carb diet. We're going to talk about ketones, and we're going to talk about intermittent fasting. And my guest today is Dr. Heather Cardin. Hi, Heather. How are you?
I am great and super excited to be here today. Thanks for having me.
I'm excited. So we are going to dig deeper into the low carb diet. And I kind of don't like to use that word diet, but the low carb kind of regimen, if we put it that way. And we're going to talk about how we can do that to help stabilize our blood sugar level. And then ketones, which is a powerful energy molecule that is good for our brain and our body, and has some neuroprotective properties, and also can be has effect of stress reduction. And we're going to get some practical tips on how to introduce those ketones. We're also going to talk about intermittent fasting. Many of you might have heard about it. We're going to talk about the 16-8 method, the 5-2. We're going to dig a little bit deeper on this. But before we do this, let me give you a little bit of background about my guest. So first of all, I've known her for probably 7 or 8 years, right, Heather?
Almost 10, I think, actually. Sorry, yeah, it's been quite a while.
It's been quite a while. So like me, she's been in practice for over 25 years. She has a doctorate of chiropractic from the Cleveland Chiropractic College in Kansas City, and is currently practicing in Overland Park, Kansas, with her husband. They are both owners of Cardin Chiropractic and Wellness Center. She has extensive training in diagnostic technology, applied kinesiology, acupuncture, homeopathy, and nutrition. And she has really extended her scope of practice to help her patient in the physical, mental, and the chemical aspect of their health. She's also been a specialist in ketone education for the past 9 years for the company Prove It. So Heather is very much dedicated to finding tools that will work. She's been featured medical director for KC Fitness Magazine Challenge, been on ketone lecture in a variety of different health and wellness platform, retreats, keynote, you name it. She is an educator, and you may want to check her Facebook page as well, because she's always posting amazing content. She's not new to podcasting, like I said, and has also been a nutrition advisor for a documentary on PTSD and veteran suicide. So you can get the gist that Dr. Cardin does know what she's talking about. So again, welcome to the show, Heather.
Thank you for having me again. I'm really excited to dive into these topics that you've talked about. They're near and dear to my heart, and I'm going to do my best today to help really connect to those top questions that people really wonder about.
Yeah. And then you're in practice, you see people that, we could have, named this presentation or this show, weight loss or inflammation reduction or hormones, because everything that we're going to talk about will impact people that have those issues. So as you said, let's dig right in. So I know that you work with a variety of patients to help them, like I said, weight loss, inflammation, and even hormone, and that you tend to leverage the more low carb and paleo diet. So let's unpack why it's important to do this to help people control their blood sugar.
Okay, So let's just start with carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are grains, fruits, vegetables. There's no essential carbohydrates. I think we still have to educate people, letting them know there are essential fatty acids, essential amino acids, but there's no essential carbohydrates. Carbohydrates still feed inflammation. Inflammation is a leading cause of diseases, like you said, heart disease, diabetes, autoimmune diseases. So we're talking about a low-carb diet. We're talking about healthy carbohydrates that come from rooted vegetables, above ground vegetables, some limited grains like sweet potatoes. So we talk about blood sugar. It's really about balancing low glycemic carbohydrates, again, rooted vegetables, starchy vegetables, maybe some complex carbs in there, and timing them in the right time. And when you can help people learn when to eat carbohydrates and they listen to their body, they actually get huge, big home runs in their health very, very quickly that maybe they fought for years to get, like they 5-10 years trying to figure out how to actually crack their health, and you say hack their health to getting their blood sugar down. It can happen in just days when you have people do things like intermittent fasting. We're going to talk about.
Oh, I believe we just lost our guest here. Must be a computer connection. So we're just going to take a short break and we will be back. And we are back. The power of live television, right?
Yes.
So you were just talking about carbohydrate and how when people understand how to eat, it can be such a powerful way to eat a low carb diet to help them control their blood sugar.
Yeah. So when people figure out that they don't need all the carbohydrates we were taught to eat in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and they learn to eat 3 squares a day, stop the snacking, the liquid carbohydrates like juices and pops and smoothies, and eat when they're hungry and stop when they're full, their bodies can start to process the foods that they need. They eat healthy fats, they don't fear the fats, and learn the right carbohydrates. It really gives them freedom of food. Their blood sugar normalizes out. They start decreasing their chances of developing types of different diseases, or they can actually start reversing and remissing different diseases. And I think still people are shocked by that, saying that you can actually reverse and remiss type 2 diabetes. You can slow down the chance of having type 3 diabetes. Metabolic disease can actually be reversed by simply eliminating the processed carbohydrates and eating the good type of carbohydrates, which are vegetables and some limited fruits.
Yeah. And on that note, like you're so right. Isn't it 95% of type 2 diabetes can be reversed? So there's a lot that people can do. And you and I were discussing prior to the show that people are afraid sometimes to not eat. And we're going to dig into the intermittent fasting. So when you start working with patients, Heather, you run labs to measure where they're at. And I think, you know, what we measure gets monitored, and I think it's so crucial to do that, and I'm sure it's helpful for you to guide people. So walk us through kind of a typical first new patient evaluation in your practices of what you do with your patient to see where they're at and if they do need to work on their blood sugar control.
Yeah, so the first thing is people are generally shocked when I schedule an hour to an hour and a half for a new patient visit, because I do a full health history, a full health exam. I do have them bring in a food diary, what they're eating, when, what time, if they're having migraines, headaches, if they're actually monitoring their blood sugar. There are diabetics out there that have never been told to monitor their blood sugar because their blood is tested, their A1C, every 90 days or every 6 months. And I want them measuring it when they eat, 2 hours after they eat. And then I also check things like their C-peptide, their insulin, their fructosamine, because I want to know what's happening within their body. And then also other things. Are they getting migraines after they eat? What are their bowels doing when they eat? So we we do a full health history, getting to the bottom and being a good detective of what's happening to their body when they're eating, because we know dairy can actually elevate your blood sugar if it's an allergy, or gluten can do that if it's a sensitivity for your body. So once we do a thorough health history, do an exam, a good subjective and objective exam, then we decide what blood work, what we're going to do. If there's marking on their skin, their fingernails, their hands, we take body temperature from their head to their nose to their toes and look if there's stress going in their body, feel their thyroid, seeing if it's being swallowed. And most patients will tell you their doctor hasn't even touched them. I know there's a lot of really good doctors out there, but then we start looking at, could it be your thyroid causing your blood sugar instability? We look at their food diary they brought in, when they're eating, how long they're eating, the window, and the type of foods they're eating. And then we decide what blood work. Generally, it starts with just a good lipid panel, a good CBC, a CMP, potentially a good thyroid panel, which would include a T3 uptake, a T4 total, a free T4, and potentially antibodies if there's something in their history that says that. Or if it's hormonal, if it's a female or male patient, we actually dive into hormones. If they have symptoms or if there's indication for that, checking those hormone panels, get magnesium, we just start checking on that. But for sure on a diabetic patient, we check C-peptide, we check insulin, fructosamine. Most doctors are just checking that A1C and then a fasting glucose. Fasting glucose isn't telling you the whole story, because you can get a fasting glucose at 80 and you can get an A1C at 6.0, which is telling us that their average blood sugar for the day is probably 130 to 140. So they're not really going to understand that if they're just checking their morning blood sugar. So that's where we start. And then we kind of start to unpeel from there, looking at their food diary. Where can we start? And it generally starts with stopping the liquid foods first, which is juices and pops and smoothies, and the direct sugar, whether it be honey or sugar substitute, sugar additives that you're putting in and on food, whether it's sugar on oatmeal, sugar in your coffee, and we stop that first. And it is just health stacking and making good health choices 1 to 2 weeks at a time. Not a day by day, because we want to turn everything over, but one step at a time.
Yeah, and it is key to not overwhelm the patient too much. So I guess, what do you see the most with your patients that you're seeing that you need to tell them to stop doing? I think, the liquid aspect is definitely, but do you see patterns of, I'll say, mistake that people are doing just because of that's what they think that they should be doing? What else do you usually find there?
I would say the number one mistake overall, I was going to say, for a diabetic, when they start dialing back on carbohydrates, they have to manage their blood sugar, because it will drop very quickly within 7 to 10 days. It can come down 10 to 20 to 30 points. So that can really alter their medication. But the mistake that I see people making most of all is eating right before bedtime. We know that your cortisol starts to calm down at 9 p.m., it flatlines around midnight, and then starts to ramp up, and that pineal starts around 4 a.m. We need that first 4 hours of sleep for our brain to really decode that short-term memory, file it to long-term memory. People are eating to sleep. They need M&Ms at 10 p.m. to go to bed at 11. They need chips and wine and ice cream and popcorn to go to bed. We have to stop eating 3 to 4 hours before bedtime. It's causing metabolic disease, hormone disruption, autoimmune disease. If we can just educate people and tell them you can sleep without eating, because we don't need those calories, we don't need that energy, because food equals energy, before we go to bed, it can be a huge, big help in how they feel the next day when they wake up. Their quality of sleep will improve. Their hormones will improve. Hormones being insulin and estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. But really, just stop eating 3 to 4 hours before bedtime. You can get a home run.
Yeah, it's yeah. And would you say that you end up, it's, I kind of hate categorizing diet, but lower carb usually means more paleo, less grain. Like, how detailed do you go? Because I know that for people that have autoimmune issues, a good strong paleo diet can be very helpful, right, to reset the immune system. So do you adapt it to the person in terms of what they need, or are you saying, okay, here's what you should be doing based on your lab, and they will follow through with it too, right?
So I do try to meet people where they are, and I do know that they came to me for their best advice. So looking at their labs and knowing how much they can commit to their health. And that's the other thing. I ask them, how ready are you to make changes? And for some people, it's easy. And for some people, they have a lot of stress in their life, financial stress, relationship stress, and they have to make small pivots. And sometimes a 2 or 3 degree pivot every week will add up very quickly in 3 to 6 months. So very easy pivots sometimes for people who have a lot of stress. If people are like, I'm ready to go, I'm ready, set, go, and give me all you got, I can cut out everything, I can clean my cupboards out, then we go all in, especially if their labs look dangerous. If their cardio IQ panel, they have the wrong kind of genetics for heart disease, and we're looking at some other autoimmune titers that are very high, then they're ready to go. They don't feel well enough. They can get out of bed some days, and they're ready to make a change. Then I go with them. We're ready to make a change, and we stay on top of that every other week and see and do a short visit. But it really depends on how far the patient goes. You can't push somebody to do something they're not going to do. I always tell people you wouldn't train for a marathon in a week. So you can't really change your whole entire health and your whole blood flow and your whole white blood cells, red blood cells, and your antibodies and immune system in a day. But a 1 to 2 degree shift every day can add up very quickly in 3 months.
That's and just going back to what you touched on with the examination, and you're in the US, I'm in Canada, and an hour and a half evaluation is not seen in a typical doctor's office because time issue, the way things are designed. And also too, I mentioned that often is the false sense of security with very, very basic labs that the person is being told, oh, your labs look good. And you're like, okay, well, why is this person carrying, all of this extra weight and is, out of breath just going upstairs kind of thing. So I think it's so valuable for people to find people like you, not just when they have major health issues, but to make sure that they're heading in, they're on the right track, because now we're talking about lifespan versus health span. So we don't want to live longer just for the sake of living longer. We want to be healthy and being able to do what we want in our 80s and 90s. So it's kind of training or working towards that, right?
Right. And we look at labs, you're right. We look at the same way in the US. We'll see labs for, say, your TSH could be a normal reference range would be 0.4 to 4.5. I know it's a different conversion, but optimal range would be 1.8 to 3.0. Those trends or those ranges change every 3 to 6 months based on the population. A1C, blood sugar ranges, every range changes based on the population. And think about that for a minute. The people who are having their blood draw are not people who are just being preventative. They are people who are mostly sick. And these are people who are infants, who are teenagers, who are 50s and 60s, who are geriatric patients. So we actually look at labs who are the reference range for the time and space they are at their age. So if it's a 30-year-old female or a 50-year-old male, we look at different ranges based on the population that person is in, which is why we find things out of range or out of optimal range, and we can start to correct those with lifestyle changes, nutritional changes, sleep habits before they get out of that reference range, which is called the sick range. So we can make some really good, easy changes before they actually get into trouble.
Oh, that's amazing. So now I know the next question that I'm going to ask you is leveraging ketones. And I know you can speak extensively on ketones. So let's start with the basics. What are ketones? Where and how are they produced in our body? And then we'll jump into exogenous ketones. So the ketones that our body can make, and then the ketone that, I know you use for your patients to help them achieve, a decrease in injection of insulin and all of this, because you've had some pretty amazing success stories. So explain to us ketones.
Yeah, so ketones are not to be feared. Ketones are a natural source of energy in our body. Our body either runs on glucose, which comes from carbohydrates and proteins, or it runs on ketones, which comes from fat, or in the absence of glucose, your body will tap into your own stored fat, break it down, and make ketones. This is how our ancestors survived in the place of starvation or when there was famine. That's how we had survival of the fittest, or that's how our ancestors survived, and generations upon generations maintained physical fitness and adaptability. Our bodies were designed actually to go through fasting and famine. However, with today's ways, the way we have a lot of stress, we have some cellular health problems. I have found it in my 20 plus years, 25 plus years of practicing, even my own health, it can be hard to get your body in that state of ketosis where we're metabolically burning fat for fuel, which is actually a far superior fuel than glucose. It's actually more oxygen sparing. It's 33% more efficient. We've studied the ketogenic diet for seizure control for children where it started well over 100 plus years ago. However, no one had made a pure therapeutic exogenous ketone, which means outside the body. Endogenous is the one I talked about before. Endogenous meaning inside the body. My liver broke it down, uncoupled it. Studies have shown that the higher level of ketones, when your body's producing them, the more energy that you have, because again, they're energy. Glucose is energy. Ketones are energy. And ketones, again, give you 33% more energy for your body. Not only oxygen, but ATP, if we go back to the science of it. So if you think about that for a minute, think how many patients come in and like, gosh, I'm just tired. If I could just get more energy, if I had 33% more energy, or people who have tried the ketogenic diet, but just can't do it because either they don't know how to do it, or they just think they have to have carbs because they were taught they have to have carbs. They're afraid not to eat carbs, or their body's metabolically not healthy enough to just, or their liver isn't healthy enough to just tap in and make those. Or if you're not active enough, your body cannot get into metabolic ketosis. So approximately 9 years ago, we had a formulation where we have the body's only pure therapeutic exogenous ketone, which is bioidentical to what our body makes. So instead of waiting 72 hours to a fasted state, or days or weeks, or sometimes a month to get into natural ketosis when your body makes endogenous ketones, and our body does make 3 different ketones. The one that produces the most energy is beta hydroxybutyrate. We have a water-soluble beta hydroxybutyrate ketone. So this is an amazing tool that we can use to help accelerate our body's energy. We can use it in a fasted state. We can use it when the cells aren't healthy enough or we're having cravings. It helps with brain health, digestion, focus, lots of different ways it helps our body, but it's an energy source. Most people think of an energy drink, but those are just stimulants. This is actually our body's native energy fuel source that we can make, but sometimes the body isn't capable of doing it, or we can't fast long enough for other health reasons. So it's just a great tool to put in your cabinet, in your toolbox, to use to help you have more energy to be the best version of yourself, both cognitive and physical.
Yeah. So question on that, if you don't mind elaborating between the ketone salt and the ketone ester, because they're 2 different products. And I believe the company that you're referring to has both now, correct?
We just have the ketone salt.
Salt,
Don't
okay.
have the ester yet, yeah.
Because,
yeah. And it's just because the ketone salt was made first because the ketone ester is not palatable, which means taste-wise, getting your body into ketosis, 99% of the time we can't, it's hard to do that with a ketone ester. It's very hard on your stomach because ketones are acidic. So that's been the, I would say, manufacturing, a little bit of the delay in manufacturing, getting a true ketone ester that's also affordable and that puts your body in a state of ketosis. There are some esters that are ketones that do feed you energy, but won't put you in that state of ketosis diet independent. So being on a paleo diet, a clean low carb diet, you can drink these ketones and still put your body in a state of ketosis in just minutes. No fasting, no delayed, no counting macros, no prepackaging meals. You're actually in ketosis in just minutes, diet independent. The esters aren't there at the point yet where we've actually made them strong enough, digestible, and palatable that we can put you in ketosis in just a few minutes. You can still get the benefits of the ketones therapeutically, but not put you in ketosis without doing a specific diet. So I'm ready for that day.
and I have mine.
Yeah.
So I myself really like to use it before sports and before my workout. Like if I'm feeling, okay, I want to work out, I'm like, my energy is a little bit low, I'll have half of a sachet, and I find that it's really giving me that oomph. So when you work with patients, and I know it's hard to generalize, but do you have people take 1 a day, 2 a day? Like, does it depend where they're at and what kind of diet you put them on?
It depends on, yeah. So you can use it for appetite control because ketones do help soften down that dopamine, which is your impulsivity for cravings. It also helps calm down the dopamine. So for focus, some people may eat for hunger, some people may eat for, trying to watch my words here very carefully and be compliant with it. Some people may eat out of stress, and we know ketones help calm down stress by increasing GABA, which is your joyful feel-good hormones. So it does help our ghrelin and leptin, which is our hunger and satiety hormones, balance out better. It does also help insulin resistance. So for many reasons, whether you're eating out of boredom, you're eating out of stress, you're eating because your insulin is a little bit out of balance, ketones can help that. Some people use it as a tool to help tighten their intermittent fasting window as they begin intermittent fasting, but just about everybody I meet is tired. They don't feel well. They wish they had more energy. And then it also helps you sleep. There's so much science showing that when your brain is in a state of ketosis, those first 4 hours when you go to sleep, it helps your BDNF when you're fasting in that state, which is your brain derived neurotrophic factor, make new neurons, which is so important for our brain, especially if you've ever fallen off your bike when you were little or have a bruised brain or you're an athlete. Our brain's exposed to so much, and we know there's so much happening in that mental health world. And also with concussion syndromes and other things with our brain that's causing a lot of the mental health issues today. If we can protect our brain, and when you said you use it before working out, well, a lot of people who love the ketones working out because it does help protect your lean muscle mass because it turns off an enzyme called myostatin to help protect your lean muscle mass. We are 80s ladies, which means we went to college in the 80s and we were told to carb load, which means we used to tap into our lean muscle, and ketones are muscle sparing. So it helps protect your lean muscle when you work out. So there's not a wrong time. It's an energy source. So when people feel like I'm tired, I want to go for a donut, that's a great time to have ketones. I need more energy for my workout instead of my banana milkshake. That's a great time to use ketones. I can't turn my brain off before I go to sleep. I'm not sleeping great. Ketones will calm down that autonomic nervous system so your body can get that fight or flight down to rest or repose and sleep better. I don't feel good when I wake up. It's an energy source to get your body waking up and going naturally. So again, it's hard to pinpoint 1 to 2 a day based on your body size, based on your body composition, your health history, how your body metabolizes things. It's water soluble, so your body uses what it needs and eliminates out what it doesn't need.
Well, let's ask another question that maybe people are thinking. What about quality? Because I know you can probably buy ketone salts, anywhere online. And obviously you've been with the Prove It company for over 9 years. You know the products inside and out. Obviously the products are better quality, but what should people be looking at when they're wanting to purchase? Because it can be a bit of the Wild West out there.
Yeah, exactly right. So this is the only one in the world, and we're in 40 countries, that is bioidentical to what your body makes. That's why it puts you in ketosis in less than an hour. There are many out there that are not bioidentical to what your body makes. So you'll drink it and it may just end up in the toilet, or maybe your body absorbs as part of it. That's why we can say it puts you in ketosis in less than an hour, 99% of the time. There is a very specific mixture that's called a racemic mixture. It goes back to some biochemistry, but your body recognizes this because it's the same as what your body makes. And we have been using this formula. We actually bought it from the Office of Navy SEALs about 10 years ago. So they had already been using this in our Navy SEAL special op divers to help prevent seizures when they were diving, to put them in the right proper state, which is ketosis, before they would do oxygen diving in deep waters to help protect their brains. So it would already had been tested and proven before we actually purchased that. If anyone's familiar with Dominic D'Agostino and all of his work for the Office of Naval Research. But with that being said, you're right. There are a lot of out there popping up on the market. You need to look at the brand. This is gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free, how many patents are on the product when you're buying any supplementation. The salts are kosher certified, and make sure it has what's in it that it says in it. So if it says it has a ketone in it, make sure the word beta hydroxybutyrate or acetoacetone that actually is in the product. And then check your ketone levels. You can get out your urine strips, you can get out your blood meter, you can get out your breath meter, and just check it and see if it says what it does.
Do you have your patients purchase either ketone stick or the strip to test their blood? Is that something that you pay attention to?
Again, it depends on the patient. It depends on their health status. I generally want people to become a detective and notice how they feel, whether it's blood sugar, whether it's ketones, whether it's when they're food cravings. I want them to really start to be a detective and not depend on a lot of different type of rings and watches and meters, but notice how they feel instead of like, oh, it's noon, I need to eat. How do you feel? Instead of counting everything. So I don't have many patients do it unless they are diabetic and we're needing to look at their ketone level, seizure activity, then yes, we check that. Cancer patients, yes, we would check that to be in ketosis. Again, it just depends. Severe autoimmune patients, Lyme, then yes, you'd probably check that, but not on everyone, no.
And it is like anything else, the quality does matter. So making sure that you have a good brand is very important. And also too, they may seem a little bit pricey, but what's the difference to go to Starbucks and spend, I don't know, I don't go anymore, but
Yeah.
$7-8 on one of those really, really sugary drink instead of taking your ketones.
Yeah.
So we're going to take a quick break, Heather, and go to a quick commercial here. And we're going to get back and discuss intermittent fasting, which I know you are very knowledgeable about that. So we want to dive deeper into this. So we'll be right back.
In today's world, the flood of health information feels endless. But amidst the noise, two experts with over 50 years of combined clinical experience come together to help you with Smart Cuts, biohack your health span, cutting-edge protocols for greater energy and performance. Dr. Paul Sly, a beacon for athletes, weekend warriors, and those seeking to elevate their potential. And Dr. Nathalie Beauchamp, renowned for empowering individuals in their health journeys. Together, they've produced the book, Smart Cuts, Biohack Your Health Span, a protocol-based treasure trove packed with actionable steps. Journey through 5 transformative sections. Dive into sleep, hydration, movement, brain health, and even the secrets of longevity. Guided by their expert hands, unleash the best version of yourself. With over half a century of clinical wisdom and innovative protocols, reclaim your health and redefine your limits. Are you ready to embark on this transformative journey? Smart Cuts, available now.
And we are back to Hack Your Health with Dr. Nat. I am with Dr. Heather Cardin, and we're talking about low carb, ketones, and now moving on to intermittent fasting. So, Heather, this is something that I know you do for yourself and your family, but this is also a tool that you're using on your patient. And as we discussed earlier, people are almost afraid of not eat anymore because we have food. We just open the fridge, is there all the time. So let's dig into the benefit of intermittent fasting, not just for blood sugar control, but even longer fast as well.
Yeah, so when I say don't eat breakfast or don't eat until you're hungry, they are a little bit afraid. But some of the top benefits of intermittent fasting, and just to define that, intermittent fasting simply means a period of time of which you're actually consuming food that causes a rise in your glucose. So water, plain coffee, plain tea, exogenous ketones we just talked about when mixed with water do not raise your blood glucose, no glycemic index, so you're still in a fasted state. So what researchers have come together over the last several, almost decade have declared that eating in an 8-hour window, letting your body digest and rest in a 16-hour window is the best for your body. People experience amazing energy because you're not digesting food 12 hours a day. Your body's actually only digesting food 7 to 8 hours a day. Like you said, you have more stable blood sugar. They're finding biomarkers for heart diseases are actually going down. Markers for longevity is actually going up. People are feeling better. They're finding hormone levels are actually coming back to normal levels. There's so many amazing things that happen when you actually eat in a small window, and then you give your body the rest of the time, the next 16 hours, to really rest, recycle, rejuvenate. And then when you do longer fasts, like a 24-hour fast, your body naturally makes human growth hormone. You don't have to go buy injections. If you do even a prolonged fast, like 60 hours to 72 hours, your body recycles and makes new white blood cells. But in that shorter time of like 12 to 14 hours, your body does this amazing thing called autophagy. It's just like cleaning out your body's cells that it no longer serves a purpose to make room for new cells. So it's a healthy way for your body to do this. Again, our ancestors did this, our grandfathers, whoever you want to call, did this, and this is how they survived century after century or generation after generation before refrigeration, before drive-through. And that's why you're seeing so many people all over social media raving about it. And it's one thing that people actually can really feel good about and conquer. When you try to counsel people on nutrition, it's really hard to say, cut out this or cut out that. But when you say, let's just try eating in a smaller window, people about 100% of the time can actually do that. They have a harder time cutting out this and that, where you say cakes and cookies and pies. But research shows that it's almost more important when you eat than what you eat. And when you give them an 8 to 9 hour window, and for cycling women, the week before it, make that window a little bit bigger, 9 or 10 hours, because your body needs to make progesterone. People can really achieve that, and they see really lasting results, because when you put a ketogenic diet with intermittent fasting, you almost increase ketone production 20-fold is what some of the latest science shows, which is more energy, and people want more energy. And they're surprised that when they eat less and eat less often, they have more energy and they feel better, and that incentivizes them to do that the next day. But first, they have to get over the fear of not eating when they get up, and not eating because it's noon, and not eating because it's a pickup line, and not eating because it's bedtime, and not eating because it's TV time. Once they get over that and understand the logic, they feel amazing.
Yeah. Couple of important points you made. So you talked about Prolon, which is a company that has products that does fasting mimicking. So it comes in a kit. I've done it in the past, and then it's 5 days, if I remember correctly. Yep. And it comes with little packs of food, so enough to keep you at a low calorie intake. And again, you're following that window of time. Now, I remember when I purchased my first kit, I'm thinking, okay, something is weird with this. I'm fasting for 5 days, and yet I'm spending money on this kit. It sounded a little bit silly to spend money on fasting. Technically, if you're fasting, you're not eating. But the point of this is that for the people that are maybe not able to fast for straight up 5 days without any food at all, it's a great way to do it. And I believe the research is pretty spectacular on the benefit of that lower calorie and that with Prolon. So that's one thing I think is a good tool for people if they want to investigate that a bit further. And then you touched upon women. So I know that women, we are different, and you've mentioned that we should not fast exactly the same way, but dig a little bit deeper into that, Heather, because I think it's super important.
Yeah, well, I would say 90% of the women that I see are not eating enough protein, and then they really get in a good rut of doing the 16-8, which means you're fasting for 16 hours, eating an 8-hour period. But most women do crave things a week before their cycle starts, which is day one, right before they begin their cycle. And that should happen. That's a really good sign. It means your body's saying, I need to make more progesterone, I need to make more calories, because there's a potential of fertilization implantation. It's a natural process. Even if you're not in that phase of your life, or you're not planning to have a baby that next month, your body's doing the right natural thing. So we need to lean into that and have some more of those progesterone type foods, which are grass-fed meats, those are cold water fish, walnuts, squashes, butternut squash, spaghetti squash, pumpkin, some of those other type of foods, but open that window up a little bit so you're not overfeeding your stomach of those 2 to 3 meals a day, or make sure you have an extra snack in there. And that's just listen to your body. Your body's telling you, I'm hungry, or I need more food. Have another ounce of protein at your meal, or have an extra snack in there. But it's okay to be in that 9 to 10 hour window, day 21 to day 28, but listen to your body. Don't go, oh, it's day 21. I should eat in another hour window. But listen to your body and become that detective. And that's what your body's telling you, because you will probably notice as you begin your cycle or that day one, your body's like, oh, I'm not craving that anymore. And don't lean into the M&Ms, lean away and lean into the butternut squash or a big pumpkin squash soup or something yummy like that. But yes, the rules are not always the same for women, especially if you're a cycling female. And if you are pregnant, I want to say that if you are pregnant nursing, then you definitely need to eat in that 9 or 10 hour window. We don't want you restricting your calories or food intake. I want to make sure that's said loud and clear on here, and definitely increase your fats and healthy fats and a variety of fats if you are expecting or trying to get pregnant or breastfeeding. So eat in that bigger window for your health and the health of your baby.
Very good point. Now, on your Facebook, I always enjoy having your posts on my Facebook. You always have tons of videos on cooking and cooking for your family. And I know you're the mother of 4 boys. I mean, they are, grown and all out of the house by now? Or
no, we have the one that's getting married in June. He's living at home while his fiance is finishing her last year of nursing school this month, May. So just one at home.
Yeah. So cooking for 4 boys, regardless, when they were teenager, I'm sure it was almost a full-time job. So I know that it is challenging for parents to, we're fighting, oh my God, the school cafeteria, we're fighting a lot of different things. So what tips do you have for parents to try to, cook better for their family? I know we try to do meal prep as much as we can ahead of time. That's usually a good thing. But any other tips for people or parents to think about?
Yeah. So number one, meal prepping is important, and be the dictator of your table, especially when they're little. I mean, if you go to Africa and they're eating beetles and bugs, the kids are eating beetles and bugs. So if you're a parent, sit down and have a dinner with your family. If the kids are eating what you're eating a salad, they're going to eat the salad. So they will mimic what you're eating, and prioritize protein for kids and for moms. Don't prioritize peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. I always say don't eat like a toddler if you're over the age of 7. So macaroni and cheese should not be a dish. It's not a main course. So meal planning is important, and have your kids be a part of that for sure. But our kids were active in sports, as hockey and lacrosse and all those other sports. So if they could just land their feet in the kitchen and we had something they could warm up, it really did help. But as parents, be the dictator of your table. Take a moment to prep their food with them. If they see you liking it, they're going to like it. Being a mother of 4, nobody was happy 100% of the time, but they knew tomorrow they might be happy if they weren't happy today. And they knew they needed to eat to go to practice, and they understood the importance. So if kids understand this is what gives you a healthy body, this is what helps you participate in your sports or in school or theater or whatever activity you like to do, that will also encourage them. But if the parent is sitting there having soda and you're telling the kid no to soda, that doesn't really ever work. I haven't seen it work in 25 years. And now it's pretty easy. There's so much social media on TikTok and Facebook of people meal prepping. And my son that's living at home, who has already graduated from college, he meal preps 10 meals every week because he doesn't like what's out there and he doesn't want to spend what's out there. My son who is senior in college, he still meal preps. And my son who's 29, he still meal preps, and he works full time and aerospace engineer. So they still meal prep their meals, and they know to rotate their proteins and rotate their grains around their workouts. They have the chance to drive through and order in, but they still prefer that because it just tastes better. So if you teach them when they're little, they're going to leave home and carry that on. But only have good options in the house. If there's no options that are processed, they can't go there. So that's another thing. If it's not in the house, they can't eat it.
That is so true. Heather, what is your Facebook? Is Ask Dr. Heather, right? On Facebook?
Yes. It's called the Keto Doc, but the name is Ask Dr. Heather.
Okay. So I would strongly suggest for people to follow it. She always has great recipe. So with every show, Heather, I really try to give people practical tools. So can you give us practical tips for people to help regulate their blood sugar? We talked about ketones, obviously. We talked about intermittent fasting as well. Any other practical tips that you can share with us?
Yes, sleep is one of the biggest hacks you can do to help balance your blood sugar, because if you're not sleeping, your cortisol will cause dysregulation of your insulin. Sleep is your secret weapon to your overall health. So shut the TV off, shut the stuff off, go to bed and try to get 7 to 8 hours of restful sleep. That will help your blood sugar balance. You won't wake up hungry or hangry if you get a good night's sleep. The first thing that goes in your mouth when you wake up is water. 16 ounces of water. We lose a pint of water at night while you're sleeping. Move your body is the second thing before you put anything else in your mouth, whether it be food or any drink. Wake up, water first, because 97% of people are dehydrated around the globe. Our body is 97% water, or 79% water as well. Within 3 days, no water, our body doesn't survive. We can go days without food, but we must have water. That will help balance your blood sugar as well, because when you're dehydrated, it will mimic thirst. You go and grab a carbohydrate, you're going to start that whole yo-yo of your insulin or your blood sugar. So sleep well, hydrate. It will set you up for the right day in the right way. And then get some movement in. I'll stop there, but that's the way it would start.
Those are, and it's funny because in our book that I co-authored with Dr. Paul Sly, Smart Cut, first section is sleep and recovery, and we do webinars and we do conferences, and it sounds so boring, like sleep, come on, but it is so crucial for people to manage their sleep. It truly is crucial. So let's talk a little bit about some of the cases of your patients, obviously without mentioning names, but give example of success stories that you've had with your patient, because some people may listen to us and go, oh my God, it seems like such a big mountain to climb. So any patients, success story that comes to mind of what they were able to achieve when they decided, you know what, it's time to reverse my health. I'm going to do something.
Yeah, I would just think I was sharing with you recently. I had a patient who was over 300 pounds, and she was on over 100 units of insulin, long acting, short acting, once a week, several other medications, on a BiPAP, CPAP, and it took a year. She lost 85 pounds, but very quickly came off the short acting insulin because she went to a low carb diet. She did intermittent fasting. There's still days that she has some foods or some carbohydrates, a cookie or a piece of birthday cake, but she went from walking 2,000 steps a day a year ago. She's now walking 15,000 steps a day, and she's also doing some jazzercise, some weights. She still has another 75, 80 pounds to go. She's lost 85 pounds already. She feels amazing. Her size is coming down, incredible. Another patient had very high triglycerides, very high LDLs. The overall total cholesterol wasn't high, but triglycerides and LDL are what causes the inflammation for the plaquing. Also had some thyroid instability, had some inflammatory markers for thyroid. Put them on a clean, balanced, low-carb diet, anti-inflammatory, which means you took out the dairy and the soy, the peanuts and the wheat, and just had a very balanced diet. And within about 6 months, all the markers came back into normal, optimal range, with a few supplements, but mostly doing some lifestyle changes. And we do those health stacking, one thing at a visit, or one hack at a visit. So work on cutting out this food this month, work on getting in more water this month, working on getting a few more steps this month. It's all about health stacking and going at that person's pace so they can be successful and it becomes organic in their lifestyle, and putting the next one in there. But it's time and time again, we're reversing and remissing type 2 diabetes. And that is a huge win every time. When people can just get rid of the needles and get rid of the insulin, it is freeing for their life. We have a lot of weight loss stories. Lots of people in the 100-pound club, which is always exciting because it's just a whole new person inside. But a lot of people getting off thyroid medication, getting off birth control, because we're balancing out hormones, because the birth control doesn't fix the problem and it creates more problems, and people are now finding that out. So that's exciting as well. So I think I could talk all day about success stories, because we could add in the chiropractic success stories as well. But it's just really freeing when we see people get away from the insulin and the needles and that prescription, and there's no more the orange bottles, and they just feel so, I mean, their posture changes, their voice changes, their stature changes, how they present themselves changes, they're proud of their food diary, and they just want to tell everybody there's a different way.
Yeah. And you touched upon hormones, but it's I see it in the practice so often, like women in their 40s are like, struggling, tired, and so forth. And it's almost like, they've told themselves, well, I'm in premenopause and that's the way it's going to be, and so forth. And yet, following this kind of approach can truly make remarkable changes for people. I'm sure you treat a lot of women who have, hot flashes and very unpleasant menopause.
Yeah. Well, it's popular in the United States for people to go to these clinics and get pellets or get injections of testosterone. Testosterone becomes very high in the hundreds, which should be 26 to 33. That's US standards. And they're coming in 400 and 500. Well, then that starts making their hair fall out, or starts making their blood pressure be high, and starts making other things happen. So now they're getting 4 and 5 prescriptions to counteract the side effects from the testosterone, which is entirely too high. If their testosterone had been that high normally, we would have diagnosed them with PCOS. So now we've got to tell them your body is meant to make testosterone. When you eat these foods and you exercise this way, your body can actually make testosterone all by itself. So we're reversing a lot of disruption or imbalances of hormones by getting back to the basics of what your body was meant to do and how it was meant to perform by a lot of these xenohormones out there.
Yeah. And another one too that we see often is inflammation in the joint. Just today, I had a patient and, get low back pain, sciatic pain, and so forth. And she's like, I feel sore everywhere. And I'm like, okay, can we sit down and talk about your food? Because there's, definitely something that you can do to decrease your inflammation. And we know that, even from several years ago with the wheat belly, Dr. William Davis, when he's a cardiologist, started putting his patients on no wheat, and he was not only helping his patient with their heart, but he was noticing decrease in sore joints and so forth. So everything that we talked about tonight is decreasing inflammation, and inflammation are those chronic diseases like heart disease and diabetes and so forth. So I think if you're listening to this and you've never tried a low carb diet, you never tried a exogenous ketones, you've never really paid attention to your blood sugar, I think it's and the intermittent fasting, and you can start just pushing your window, instead of eating your breakfast at 8:00, you push it to 9, see how it feels. And then you just keep adding an hour there. And I know myself that I need to change it up. I cannot be fasting all the time. Some days I'll say, you know what, today I'm having breakfast and I'm going to change my window of eating and extend it. Because like you mentioned, back in the days, it was feast or famine. There was not, constant food all the time, and they probably went periods without food. So it gives our body a break and triggers that autophagy that you talked about. So before we wrap up, I always like to ask my guests what a day in their life looks like, and talking about what we call in our book Smart Cut are non-negotiable. And what I mean by that, what are the things that either are super important to you? And I know your husband is really fit as well and is focusing on his health as well. What are your non-negotiable daily, weekly, monthly? Tell us what you do to sustain your health. I know you said you're gardening all day today, so that's.
I know. I'm looking. I even had sunscreen on today. I'm looking at my face shine. I'm like, gosh, I had like 110 on today, so I apologize and had a hat on. But non-negotiables is I really focus on sleep. As I said, it is a secret weapon to your overall health. I focus on getting at least half my body's weight in water, if not more. Eating in a 6-hour window and prioritizing protein, but I wake up, I have water, I listen to, I have a daily meditation or a daily rosary that I do every single day before I even do anything. Then I do a stretching, flexibility before I even get out of bed, continue with water, and then do my work. Whatever that may look like, whatever work may look like, whether it's seeing patients or online patients, and do that. But those are non-negotiables. I have gratitude I do every single day that is non-negotiable. Food is generally what's negotiable for me. If my day gets too long, I'm too stressful, then I actually fast, because fasting will calm down your nervous system if I'm having a stressful day. I definitely drink my ketones. I have my fat coffee every day, or functional fat coffee every day for my brain. she's got her fat coffee there as well. So, and then getting some sunlight and fresh air. I think everyone needs to get at least, 120 to 180 minutes of fresh air every single week. It can add up to get some sunlight, fresh air, whatever that looks like, grounding, earthing, whatever you want to call it. But we need fresh air every single day. And those are the non-negotiables. So water, sleep, fresh air, gratitude, meditation, because we are living in an over-aroused world. We've got to take some time to calm down our body to have better vitality. Weekly, I do a 24-hour fast at least, a lunch to lunch, brunch to brunch, because it does help autophagy, it helps anti-aging, it helps your brain, this BDNF we didn't get to talk about, which is creating new neurons for our brain. And then once a month, I do a extended fast up to 72 hours, because it does help detoxify, it helps increase your metabolism, which we know slows down as women, so it helps create bone health and helps create cellular health, helps protect our DNA as we start to age as well, our telomeres, and creates new white blood cells. So it just helps your immune system all together. So try to do that every single month and go anywhere from 70 to 76 hours without eating. And it's fine. Your body was meant to do that. People get very shocked when you say that, but it's very healthy for your body when it's done under the right circumstances. So those are my kind of non-negotiables. And surround myself, that's the other thing, at least once a week or once a month, get in a tribe of at least 8 people that are shining your light brighter, that you can make them shine brighter, because you need to bring around like-minded other people, because that's what helps your brain grow. You need to be around people. I know pandemic was so hard for other people, but that's one thing my husband and I talked about is what's a non-negotiable. At least one time a month or at least every other week, be around positive, like-minded people that help you grow and be the best version of yourself.
That is so crucial. Do you use any kind of biohacking tools? Like, do you do red light therapy? Like, what do you like to do when it comes to enhancing with different tools?
So I have an infrared sauna. I do have red lights and blue lights. I have some laser acupuncture. We do regular chiropractic. So it is it's a nice blend of things depending on kind of what my body is doing that day or that week. So it kind of depends on what we've done, if we've overdone things or not. But yeah, I have my big in-light bag in my room right now. I've been using the red and blue light, do some laser acupuncture depending on how my body's feeling, if it feels like it's out of balance or not. So I really try to just listen and then say, hey, hubby, I need to have this done today because this is how I'm feeling. We have an ionic foot bath. I feel like I kind of need to detox. I've been out in the ground quite a bit and doing a lot of gardening, and I feel like really been sweating, but I feel like I need to detox. Generally once a month, I try to do an ionic detoxifying foot bath. Infrared sauna, depending on how much I'm sweating, once a week or twice a week. It's great for your blood pressure and it's great for autophagy. So do that generally during that extended fast.
What about your supplements? Do you always take the same supplements or do you tend to rotate a little bit?
I rotate a little bit. I do check my blood work and rotate a little bit. In the wintertime, I tend to have a little bit more of a thyroid problem, I would say, and take more vitamin C in the wintertime. I always check my magnesium. I always check my vitamin D. I'm always taking some form of vitamin C because I think we all need to take that to help our capillary beds, our heart disease. My stage of life, I'm doing a little bit more of vitamin E and E2. I have a family history of cardiovascular disease, so I always am checking the cardiovascular things that I need to be taking. Take fish oil, omega oils, EPA, because I think everyone needs some heart healthy. I do take a probiotic and digestive enzyme because I can go in long terms about that, but I think for years I probably didn't eat the right foods. I eat pretty clean now, but with stress and things. So probiotic, digestive enzyme, vitamin C. I take some inulin. I think I've covered most of that. Okay, take a pretty good blend of things. Yeah.
A good regiment. So Heather, thank you so much. We already have to wrap up. So thank you so much. And can you tell people, we talked about your Facebook, your website where people can go find out more about you. If you want to mention that, that would be great.
Sure. I'm Ask Dr. Heather on Facebook, on YouTube. My YouTube channel is Ask Dr. Heather as well. On Instagram, it's Ask Dr. Heather. Right now, my website is being under construction. So I would say just go to my Facebook, which is Ask Dr. Heather or The Keto Doc, and you can find me there. There's a link there that you can email me. It's drheather@cardinwellness.com, or you can just send a message through Messenger on Facebook or Instagram, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. And I get my topics based on what people ask me. So I'm going to take some of the incentives you gave me here and launch some questions next week or two based on our conversation tonight.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much. And thank you for what you do. I know you're helping a lot of people out there, and your community is lucky to have you. So thank you very much.
You as well. Thanks for having me.
Thanks. So this was Hack Your Health with Dr. Nat and my guest, Dr. Heather Cardin. Until next time, hopefully you've learned a lot and you are going to implement some of the material that we covered today. So enjoy your evening.
Welcome to Dr. Nathalie's 7-Day Hack Your Health Challenge. Transform your fitness level with 7 quick, do them from anywhere workouts. Look and feel great. Nutrition. Master the art of optimizing your diet and maximizing nutrient intake with daily nutrition challenges. Biohacking. Unlock exclusive content to tap into your body's innate wisdom. Take on challenges to optimize your mindset and physiology. Ready to transform your health? Visit www.drnat.life to join Dr. Nathalie's 7-Day Hack Your Health Challenge. Your journey begins now.
This has been Hack Your Health with Dr. Nat. Tune in each week and uncover simple yet powerful strategies and actionable steps to elevate your health and wellness.